Commissioner Gordon has been hired to go kill the Joker. Punchline is currently in prison, and Batman has decided that he hasn't actually done any good in Gotham. That is today's stories, and we are the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. England, 36,000 feet aboard the Wayne Airlines Flight 89 flying from Gotham to London. The flight attendant walks through the rows counting 145, 146, 147, because all 147 passengers need to be accounted for. A voice radios back stating copy. 10, 9, 8, and the flight attendant pulls out a parachute stating that she wants them all to know that it's not their fault, it's his. This is happening because of Batman. She pulls on a white Batman mask and an explosion goes off in the cockpit. The plane itself begins to spiral out of control. Another attendant pulls down his mask, telling the first that they need to go, open the door, and wait a minute. The two look back to see a woman jumping over the crowd, kicking the man in the head. Her name is Beryl, aka the Knight, aka England's Batman. The woman says that she is more than she appears, and Knight tells them that they're not running from this. The door opens and the man grabs Knight by the leg, telling her, "Yeah, we are, and you're coming with us." As the three fall out of the plane, Knight fights to hang on to the male attendant. And even though she manages to open up his chute and hang on, they both crash land into the ground. The woman walks up telling them, "Ouch, nasty landing." And the Knight weakly asks why they're doing this. She aims her gun down right at the Knight and asks why. It's all about equilibrium. And she pulls the trigger. Later in Gotham, Batman is staring at his computer. He has spent his life fighting crime. He had an oath, a crusade, and the question is, what difference has he actually made? The only real difference that he has made is to the people that he has directly helped, the people who wouldn't be here without his intervention. He stopped the ripples of pain that could have spread through those lives being lost. But has he stopped crime? No. Has he made his city safe? No. Has he made Gotham a better place for those that he loves? No. Alfred is gone. His family is no longer here, so why is he? Far away from this city, a plane has gone down, so many people murdered. A crime scene that has the name Batman plastered all over it. And what's keeping him here in Gotham? There is no future. There are only memories. The manor, the excess, it's so big, too big for him. There's no reason to stay. In this house, in this city, he is being pulled away and he can't think of any reason to come back. It's time for the Bat to leave the cave. Forever. Later, as Batman stands just a bit away from where the plane crashed, he remembers when Alfred once brought him out here. Thought it was beautiful. He thought of how it was cold and it's getting colder. He sets out his briefcases, and as he opens one, he asks, "Are you the new Squire?" The woman tells him, "Yeah. How did you know that I was here?" Batman looks at her and she catches on. "Oh, right. You're Batman, of course." Is the Knight out of the operating theater? Is she conscious? Squire tells him that he could go see her, and Batman says, "I have questions." Squire tells him that he could ask how she's doing, but sure. Batman finishes setting up a small device and suddenly a blue light covers the entire field, with Squire asking what is that. Batman pulls out a pair of gloves telling her that he's scanning for everything. Footprints, fibers, fingerprints, hair, DNA. And the Squire asks him what are the gloves for. So Batman tells her, "The gloves are because the temperature has been dropping in unnatural increments from the moment I arrived." Squire pauses. "You're cold?" And Batman tells her, "Now, I'm going to need you to walk towards me, and whatever you do not turn around." Gentleman Ghost looms over, thrusting his arm into Batman's chest, and Batman tells him, "You've changed. What are you doing here?" Gentleman Ghost tells him that he feeds on fear, and 146 people died here in absolute terror. But he enjoys his fear fresh as well. "And you aren't afraid of death, Batman. There is, however, something you're afraid of, the fear of failing others. You dread being close to them because you fear losing them. They can still feast on," but Batman grabs the arm inside of him, ripping it out, telling him, "No, get your damn hand off my heart." And he punches Gentleman Ghost in the face. Frustrated as to how he even did that, Gentleman Ghost roars, lunging forward, and the two begin to exchange blows. The thing with these gloves, though, is that they were given to him by a man named John Constantine, who won them in a card game with a demon. John cheated, of course. But John had given them to him because he doesn't like fighting with his hands. Batman punches one last time and slams the gentleman ghost into the ground, forcing him to retreat. And Batman tells him that they'll finish up here, and then they'll head to London. Squire watches as the gentleman ghost dissipates, stating, "You just beat up a dead man." And Batman tells her, "I have enough ghosts haunting me." Later that night in the hospital, the Knight begins to wake up asking if that is Batman, and Batman tells her to hang on. He needs to knock out the monitoring equipment. Knight says that she's pretty sure hospitals need the monitoring equipment, but Batman says, "Just for this room. Are you okay?" Knight tells him that she was shot, fell out of a plane, and somehow remarkably is not dead. Batman says he has questions, and Knight laughs that she isn't surprised, but it was nice of him to at least ask how she is first. He says that it was her new squire's influence. She is young. And Knight says that he has put in younger on the field. Did he at least impress her? Batman tells her that he doesn't know what she's talking about, and the Knight asks him, "Come on." So Batman laughs and smiles. "I punched a ghost." The Knight laughs. "There it is. The attacker said something about you, an equilibrium. Any idea what that could mean, Batman?" Batman types away at his briefcase computer, stating that he has a suspicion that he is hoping he is wrong about, but he'll know for sure when the computer finishes cross-referencing the passenger list with other data. A quiet alarm begins to go off, and Knight asks him what is that, and Batman tells her, "It's a warning. The AI has picked up hostiles. I've hacked into the computer camera feed as soon as I knew which hospital you were taken to. They're coming for you." Outside, a group of assassins, all wearing white Batman suits, begin to charge in, and the Squire stands in their way, telling them, "Nope, not happening. Walk away." But she begins to feel a pat on her shoulder with Batman telling her, "It's okay." He stares at the group, they stare back, they open fire. Batman begins to run into the group, tackling them to the ground, knocking everyone, including himself, out of the 4th-story window. It'll be a very hard landing, but thankfully he'll have some people that he's very angry with help soften the blows. But even with the padding that is the human beings, Batman can feel his shoulder dislocate and a rib crack. These assassins are well trained. He's not as fast as he once was. He is injured, so he needs to be more efficient. He needs to hit harder and make every hit hurt. He needs to take the fight out of them. He needs to put them down. Along the coast, a group of assassins pull up from a boat, and one sees Batman yelling to disengage. Everyone flees from the boat, and Batman watches from behind his coat, deflecting bullets, thinking that he won't be able to catch them. They're young, he's old, he isn't catching them. But he doesn't need to catch them all, he needs one, and he fires a grappling hook. A few moments later, he climbs back into the Knight's room, telling her that they are down, and the Squire tells him that he looks terrible. It looks like he needs to go to the hospital, and hey, look at that, you're standing in one. That sure is convenient, Batman. Batman tells Knight that they need to move her somewhere hidden and secure, and Squire asks what is he tying at the end of the bed. Batman finishes tying a knot of dangling assassins outside, and he tells her, "Answers, hopefully." Squire asks what answers, and Batman turns to his computer stating, "This. It's done. The passenger list has been cross-referenced with the database. It was engineered. All passengers aboard the Gotham to London flight from all over the world, every one of them, has been rescued by Batman. Someone is undoing all the good I've done. Someone is taking the lives of the people that I saved." Jim Gordon was presented with a deal. Kill the Joker. Have unlimited funds, get a massive paycheck at the ending, but kill the Joker. With all the cards on the table, Jim begins to think back to when things were different. He can remember sitting at the dining room table after their move in the small Gotham apartment trying to chart it all out. How much would it be to send a young Barbara to college? How much would it be for the second child that they knew was on the way? Maybe he could stay on the job enough to rack up a title like captain or something respectable. He would try and keep calm through it all, make sure his voice stayed reassuring, tell his wife that he could support her, their daughter and son through the thick and the thin. But sometimes at the kitchen table, he had been weak. He had been thinking about the card that he had up his sleeve if it became necessary. His new partner at the time, Flass, made it clear that he knew of a way to earn a little extra money, and all it took was bending the law. Normally, he would never consider it, but in that moment, he had been staring at a lifetime of bills and debt. Was it really wrong to bend his ethics just a little? Even if it meant supporting his family? If he had been picked up for a few jobs like that, he'd have been able to afford a nice place outside of the city in time for Babs to go to school. But as he sat outside on the fire escape, feeling the cool night air, he knew he couldn't do it. He wasn't that man, not for all the money in the world. And now, as Jim sits on the fire escape once again, he looks at Batman, telling him that it took him long enough. Batman looks at the makeshift bat signal, telling him, "It's not your most effective signal. Jim tells him, well, he's been here for an hour freezing off his rump. Come inside, they need to talk about the Joker. So Jim laid it all out. Told him about the woman in the limousine, her strange silent chauffeur, the pictures of the Joker and Belize, the money, all of it. But what he doesn't tell Batman is that they want him to kill the Joker, or that he's considering going through with it. Sure, Batman could probably talk him out of it, but when he tries to think of his son's voice, all he can do is hear the Joker laughing. Jim tells himself that he doesn't need to make a decision until he needs to, and he can keep that card up his sleeve, and Batman tells him that if they want to do this, he'd go himself. But the massacre in Arkham Asylum ripped up all the wounds of the Joker War. They've all been torn open. The city is more raw and dangerous than it's been in years, Jim. I'd pursue the Joker myself, but leaving Gotham, it's not an option. And knowing someone I trust is on the mission will help me sleep at night. But you didn't bring me here for my approval. Jim pours himself a cup of coffee. No, I brought you here because I could use some help. First off, I don't like not knowing who is hiring me. I'm going to need to find out more about anyone with the daughter named Cressida. Second, there's plenty of information that I could get from a few phone calls, but those phone calls will bring a lot of attention. Now, I'd rather not have that attention, so I'll need my own intelligence. Batman asks if he wants access to the Bat computer, and Jim says that they can put the parental controls on if they want, but yes. I need access to all of Joker's contacts, former gang members at large, international villains that he's ever aligned himself with, everything from the day that Joker set foot in Gotham. Batman scratches his chin. We might be able to work something out, but we'll need to figure out the best way. Jim stomps him. I'm not done. I need to be able to reach you. Batman stops. You want my phone number? And Jim tells him, damn right. Batman says that he can give him everything, but there is something needed in exchange. When they do find the Joker, call. Don't go in alone. He will come and make sure that the Joker's apprehended safely and brought back to Gotham. Jim says that makes sense to him, and Batman says that there is more. He'll have a chaperone. Oracle, are you listening? Oracle says yes. She'd just like to put it on record that this is a stupid idea and Commissioner Gordon is going to get himself killed. She would also like to point out that he didn't promise that they could bring the Joker back. He said it made sense. Batman turns back to Jim, and Jim can already feel the weight of their eyes. He also realizes that now it's time to come clean, that he has been hired to kill the Joker, or come clean with a card that he's kept up his sleeve for years. He sips his coffee. Are you sure you're not just worrying about your old man, Barbara? Everyone falls silent. Jim Gordon just confirmed that he knows that Batgirl/Oracle is Barbara Gordon. And Jim gives a little smile. He can hear the gears turning in Batman's mind, trying to guess how long he's known. In another minute, they'll be asking what else he knows. It's good. They're distracted. But there's no distracting Barbara. She tells Jim to meet her at the clock tower now and disconnects. But while Jim leaves to meet with his daughter, he thinks back to another encounter that he had back in the day. One night after going through the public functions, he met someone. An ex-CIA agent working in an advisor role to some senator who had been dragged along to some cultural event. After a couple of whiskeys, he'd lean in and asked if they'd ever wondered where all of the costumed baddies went when they slipped off the radar. Jim said of course he'd like to know, and the ex-CIA agent told him it's called the Network, a series of luxury getaway spots hidden around the world. It's not just the public set, the private players as well. The killers who spent the last century out of sight of anyone in costume. They retreated, priding themselves on their secrecy, and to prove their worth, they would occasionally host some of the most renowned villains in the world free of charge. The idea was that you could host the Joker for a few months while he's laying low. Then you can sell your client that not even Batman could find you there. The ex-CIA guy says that there was a rumor in the intelligence community that the Joker had been in about 15 of these retreats all around the world. He then leaned in closer, asking, do you know who's funding it all? Look all around. The call is coming from inside of the house. As a businessman with a burned face and armed security stands by the pool, Joker sips his drink. Oh, pooh, Desmond. You're not here to spoil my fun, are you? Desmond says that he's afraid so. While they permit killing on their property, killing one of the wealthiest neighbors is not allowed. These are not people who can easily disappear. He is terribly sorry, but they're going to have to ask him to leave the country immediately. And Joker thinks for a moment. No, I don't think so. The security points their guns and Desmond says, ask was a polite word. There are two options here. You get in the car and you're taken to a plane and you leave, or you will be killed and fed to the dogs. Joker goes out into the pool, laughing. I love your imagination. Very scary. but I'm going to go with the third option. You seen the news, yes? If so, then you would know that there are some people on their way. Desmond asks who, and Joker says, oh, we're gonna keep that a secret for now. Can't spoil the big reveal, but needless to say, the attack on Arkham had rubbed a few people the wrong way. We both don't want a war coming here, so I just happened to move the target 13 miles southwest, creating a trail for my enemies to follow. We have the high ground here, so when anyone comes down the road, we'll kill them. Oh, and if you don't mind, send a maid to clean up. The corpses are starting to stink a bit. And send a tailor. Make sure that they have plenty of purple and green fabric. I'm very particular. Back in Gotham, Jim knocks on the door to the clock tower, and as Barbara opens it, he says that he brought her some hot chocolate from the diner on Avenue X. Barbara steps out, stating that they haven't been there since she was a teenager, and she's taking it. How much does he know? Jim says that they don't have to unpack all of that just yet. He knows his daughter. Doesn't matter what costume she's wearing or how digitally altered her voice is. Jim says that he knows that she was Batgirl, or was, and now she is the Oracle. As they sit on the bench, Barbara directly says that he said that he would hold Batgirl accountable for what happened to James. Jim sighs, stating that that wasn't fair of him to say. He was angry at himself for more than anything, angry that he hadn't done more, and that he wasn't more open to his son getting better. He was lashing out because if he hadn't pushed James away, the Joker would have been able to play him. Barbara says that he isn't responsible for what happened to James, but Jim looks at his glasses and says that she can say that, but he can hear the Joker laughing at him every night, even now. That clown has taken so much from them, so damn much! Barbara asks why would he give the Joker an opportunity to take more than with what little they have left as a family. He doesn't even know who's hiring, and for God's sake, is it really about the money? She can help him. Hell, he could write a book about his relationship with Batman and he'd be set for life. Jim says that woman, Cressida, she didn't ask him to turn in the Joker, she asked him to kill the Joker. Barbara pauses. You didn't tell Batman that. And Jim tells her, no, and I'd prefer you not either. Barbara stops. You're considering it. And Jim tells her that he is not considering it. She says that years ago, the Joker shot and paralyzed her, and then tried to torture him into insanity. And even after all of that, he told Batman to bring him in by the book. Jim stops her. Look, I don't relish the thought. I don't have that kind of cruelty in me, but I can't imagine losing you. You're still a target, and he'll have you in his sights as long as he is walking this earth. I'd be damned to hell 1,000 times to make sure that the Joker never got to you. Barbara tells him that she won't help him kill the Joker, and Jim says he'll make her a deal. He will only go through with it if he can convince her that it's the right thing. If not, he'll do it Batman's way. But while Jim is making his case to his daughter, there are other players making their move. In Texas, a group of cannibals gather while a vengeful brother swears that they'll cook and eat the Joker for killing their brother in the Arkham attack. And Santa Prisca, a woman that has been injected with venom, has taken out her test tube with only one enemy in mind, the Joker. And Cressida tells the council that she believes that Mr. Gordon will be on a flight tomorrow morning, and the council tells her that she has done good work. Her family name may finally be cleared off of their ledgers. In the meantime, she may retake her family's seat on the council as they look to solve the city's clown problem once and for all. Cressida reaches town, picking up a mask, putting it on, stating that it's time to finally teach the Joker to beware of the Court of the Owls. Now, the Joker storyline does have its own backup, and we didn't cover it last time, but this week we decided to catch you up. Punchline has a side story that starts in issue 1 and then goes into Joker issue 2. Here's those two parts. The world has been a buzz since the Joker's own protege, Punchline, claims no responsibility for the crimes committed or the lives lost while with the Joker. Though some would think that the case against Alexis K would be a sure win, specialized expert witnesses have been formed to make sure that Punchline loses. Shortly after the second witness to the case mysteriously died, Dr. Leslie Tompkins' assistant Harper Rowe asks how they've been having such a hard time with this. There are cameras and fingerprints, and Leslie says that she knows, but it's all circumstantial. The fingerprints don't mean anything if the people don't believe that she pulled the trigger. The DA needs something that the public can't deny. And given the support that Punchline has received by claiming that she was tricked into acting with the Joker during the Joker War, it'll be hard to do that. She has the public on her side thanks to social media. They do have something though. Punchline's too smart to leave evidence that she doesn't want found. But she did have some demerits while in Snyder College. That may be their only lead. However, they can't very well have the assistant of Leslie Tompkins snooping around an old dorm, so they're going to send in Bluebird. Meanwhile, over at Blackgate, Punchline lays in her bed when she notices a card sticking out of the top bunk. She pulls out the Ace of Spades and her cellmate says that that's the calling card of the Queen of Spades, and when she calls, it's time to give up what you got: info, contraband, commissary snacks. Punchline looks at the card asking if the Queen is trying to die over a pack of ramen, and his cellmate says that this isn't a joke. The Queen runs the Royal Flush Gang on the inside and the outside. If you cross them, it's going to be bad for you. Punchline crushes the card asking, yeah? Where does Her Highness hold court? Cellmate tells her a few cells down, but she's going to get herself killed. So Punchline says that it's either live free or die mad about it. A few moments later, Punchline opens the door to the Queen's cell asking who the hell does she think that she is, and the Queen pushes Punchline's hand back with her finger, telling her that she is not easily intimidated by a manic pixie Arkham wannabe. And anyone who doesn't show respect for her authority will be just digging their own grave. That is why she is the Queen of Spades. Punchline pulls her fist back asking, do you know why they call me Punchline? Instead of punching, she jumps up, kicking the Queen down, and then jumps on her asking, do you get it? Punchline then begins to punch the Queen over and over until her fists are covered in blood and begins to laugh maniacally. Back with Harper, she waits until nightfall, quietly sneaking off on her bike, getting ready to go out. She opens the bag in the back to get her mask, stating that Punchline may have convinced the world that their apathy is intelligence, that sarcasm is strength, and that violence is funny. Except, she's not laughing. The next day, Punchline was trending just as strong as she had before, because people were opening up about their interactions with her. Many of them from college students, and even though she was just as bad back then, there was something that a lot of them did say. Punchline was mostly a loner and only had one friend, and after tracking down that friend, Harper finds that the friend is actually still on campus. He looks around to make sure that the coast is clear and then begins to break into a condemned building, but is stopped when Harper throws a batarang into the door. She tells him that he's going to have to tell her why he's trying to pry off the lock to a building that is clearly off limits, Mr. Aiden Priest. Aiden asks how does she, and Harper slams her hand on the door telling him that while he is at it, is he going to tell her why he is doing a favor for Punchline? Aiden says that he doesn't know Punchline, but Harper picks him up off the ground stating that she has footage of them together since high school. Try again. Aiden tells her that that's what he means. He knew Alexis. Punchline is not his Alexis. Harper says that she doesn't seem much different if she's being honest. Punchline has a way with people, a way of getting them to do, even think what she wants. It's not safe to be her enemy, and it's even more dangerous to be her friend. Can't really imagine what she might do to someone who had dirt on her. Childhood secrets, even? Aiden hesitates for a moment, then tells her, okay, follow me. As the two make their way downstairs, they enter a room with several little knickknacks of Joker things, and Aiden says that this is everything he knows about Alexis K. Back at Blackgate, Queen watches as Punchline works out and an inmate stops by to pass on information. Queen scoffs, stating that she is hustling, but she is sloppy, talking too much, doing business out in the open. The psycho teeny bopper influence shtick isn't going to work in here though, but still, she's working fast, meaning that they have to act tonight. Queen then looks back as a large person walks up and says to tell them who was more surprised to find an unregistered firearm in their bag, them or their parole officers. Orca folds her arms as she stares at Punchline, and Queen says that they know that Kay can throw a punch, but let's see if she can take one. Now it's time for this week's independent coverage. This book is called Nocterra, and it has been written by Scott Snyder, and his first issue just came out recently. Issue 2 will be linked down below if you enjoyed this, but let's get into his next independent work. Of the most commonly asked questions these days, it's where were you that morning? The morning before the big PM hit. The stories are almost always the same. I was driving to work and then it became dark. I was cleaning the dishes in this darkness. But for Val Riggs, or Sundog as some call her, she was in the 5th grade class drawing a picture of her adoptive parents Miguel and Catherine, and adoptive brother Emery. For the first 4 years of her life, Val had some sort of big PM. She was born with severe cataracts and was legally blind. Though the condition is correctable, the orphanage that she was at couldn't afford the surgery. The part about the blindness is that it wasn't total. If you glanced quick enough, you could see hints of things for a split second before the spots covered them. Val always thought of the darkness as dirty fingers blotting out her world. Cruel and greedy, ruining everything that they touched. On her 5th birthday, Val had her surgery, went to sleep, and then, well, poof. Just like that, the dark fingers were gone. And standing before her was the new family of Miguel, Catherine, and Emery, all smiling. "Welcome to the real world," Catherine said. "The nightmare is over." And Val cried. But for Val, when people ask where she was when the big PM hit, she says that she was sitting in the back of the family car arguing with her brother over a crayon. However, that's not really where she was. 1:30 p.m., 10 miles east of Luxville, Colorado outpost, Val lights her path on the road asking Emery if he saw it too. He radios back stating nope, it was likely some bug birds. Sizable shades don't. And Val stops him telling him that it was sizable, like a hawk that mated with a bear, 6-7 foot wingspan. Emery tells her to keep her eyes on the prize. 8 minutes and she'll be there. Val says that she is arming up anyway. So is he ready to tell her where he was? Emery doesn't answer right away and says that reminds him, did he ever mention the country song idea that he had? It's about 2 truck drivers. They fall in love over the CB. One of them worries that it won't work out since they're always driving different routes. But the other truck driver, she was determined to make it work. The song is called It's Not Over Till It's Over, Over. Val sighs, stating that she's turning him off now, and then radios back to the people in tow that this is their ferryman. They have shades up ahead, could be big ones, but she has done this trip over 1,000 times, and she can promise them this, that they are all completely safe. Just stay lit and sitting. Emery radios in stating that he sees them, like he said, bug birds. Wait, okay, you were right. Something big is circling you. As the shades begin to crawl up onto the rig, Val turns on the high beams and burns away the shades that are in front. As more begin to jump onto the trailer, one of the passengers inside states that there are too many of them outside. They need to get out. The other passengers tell the panicking woman to sit back down, and the woman reaches for the emergency release and opens the hatch. No sooner does she do that, but a grotesque claw reaches in, grabbing the woman by the face, slamming her into the ground. Up front, Emery yells that she needs to close the shutter, but Val says that it won't close. There's something in the way. She's going out there, switching to autopilot. As Val crawls out of the cab, she steadies herself and then begins to fire off flares into the group of shades. See, in the big PM, any living organism left unlit in the dark for more than 10 hours begins to undergo a biological transformation, changing whatever it is into what they call a shade, a monstrous version of itself. Insects, fish, birds, everything. The infection starts in the gums and it moves into the blood and then the bones. And if you catch it early enough, dialysis can sometimes get ahead of it. If your gums have gone dark, you may be able to stop the infection with a solar lamp, or a halogen, or a xenon. But the stuff is rare as gold. If it gets past your gums, well, it's over. Human shades are the apex. They mix with nothing, live in packs, and have their own language. They bring down the outpost when they feel like it. If you see one, it's already too late. But it's more than the human ones, it's everything. Until about 3 years in, or 3 p.m., you can still tell what an animal was or had been. But now at 13 p.m., shades have mated with other shades, made new species. Shade plants have cross-pollinated. It's a whole new ecosystem, blooming, growing, and humans, they have no place in it. As Val fights her way into the back of the trailer, she gets the attention of the larger shade, taunting it to come and get her. The shade lunges at her, knocking the pair out of the back and onto the dark road. Emery ignores it, shouting that she needs to flare up so that she can be seen. The bigger ones are right behind her. She lights up 2 flares, and within seconds, the outpost lights illuminate the sky, burning away the shades, and a guard calls out that they received the convoy, lighting her path in. She grabs her helmet, putting it on, telling them that she'll ask again, "Where is he?" Emery tells her nowhere. He was right here, just like he is now, like he'll always be. Most of the cities fell in the first few weeks. The places that survived were smaller. Towns, villages, even neighborhoods that could stay lit in the dark. Hydra, wind, generators, low-emitting diode spotlights, hell, even fire, they became outposts. There are rumors about sanctuaries built by the rich. Bunkers hidden away filled with solar simulators, but it's all nonsense. Outposts are all they have now. And these outposts are now a hub for ferrymen like Val. The drivers who haul whatever they're paid to from outpost to outpost. It's a ragtag bunch in Val's kind of people. While getting ready to cash out, another ferryman, Spades, runs up stating that it was a close call. Is she gonna take a break now? Val tells them no rest for the wicked. She's off to Tipton for a few, got a pickup with Hilldale. Spades asks, "Did you not hear? Tipton went dark." Val quickly turns around and says, "What is he talking about?" And Spades says he's sorry. He thought that she knew. They're sending out lanterns tonight. No one has seen him in... Val turns back and heads into the hub with all the other ferrymen and makes for the counter, ignoring anyone who even says hi. Val asks the woman behind the cage, Bellwether, if there's something left. Bellwether says that she wishes that she could, but she heard the scream. Kula saw the wall go down. "You want cash or credit?" Val says charge, and Bellwether slides a battery pack, stating that there's a little bit more juice in this one. Beanie cranked it up about 4 hours straight. But as Val begins to take the pack, Bellwether tells her to look. The guards don't want her to hand out any more routes. Not until the Emery business is taken care of. Val says that she needs routes, and Bellwether says that she knows what Hilldale had for them. But if they don't talk to her, she can't help them. Val asks, "You want to help? Find me a route, Bellwether." Once outside, Val radios to Emery asking, did he not think to tell her what happened to Tipton? Emery says that it must have slipped his mind, and Val yells that they sunk everything they had into that. But as Val argues with her brother, 2 of the passengers from her recent ride ask if they can hire her. She sighs, telling them to look. Unless you're paying for a full trailer, you might as well. And the young girl says that they can, just not in advance. She turns around and starts to walk, and the old man yells for her to wait. Where they're going, it's north of the divide, a long way. They need an exceptional driver to get them there. It's a special place, secret place. Know what he means? The little girl tells him to just show her, and the old man pulls up his sleeve, showing a sunburn. Val asks if they want her to believe that that's a real sunburn there. From what, a sanctuary just north of the divide? There are human hives in those rocks. The old man says that the location is real. He was just there days ago. Everything that she could want is there. Safety, real safety. Val continues walking off, stating that it's going to be a hard pass, and the little girl yells, please. They're staying in the Rosy Finger just in case. As Val heads home, she bangs on the shutter, telling Emery to open up. He tells her 1 second, and as the shutter opens, there's a blinding flash of light, and Val yells, what the hell? He lifts his goggles, telling her that her flash pops are good. Now with more chromium. Hi. Emery gets back to working on his creation, and Val tells him that they need to talk. The guards are coming to check on him. People saw him sneak out of the outpost. But Emery tells her that they saw wrong then. He made a mistake, but he's fine. Val grabs him. Show me. Is it working? Emery tries to push her back, but Val hooks her finger into his mouth, pulling, seeing the black around his gums. She turns. No. The dialysis has to work. The only lamp was in Tipton, and now it's gone. Get on the table and try again. Emery begins to state that he just finished an hour ago, and Val shouts for him to get on the table now. She will save him. But as Emery gets set back up, Val hooks up the battery pack and thinks back to her earlier thought, back when she first started to see. She wasn't crying because she was happy. She was crying because the bright world looked so fake. It was paper thin. She cried because some part of her knew that the real world was the one in the dark, the dangerous, the vicious, and it was only a matter of time before those long, dirty fingers came back. That's where she was at minute 23 when the sky turned full black, and she was thinking it followed her, that it was back for real this time. And once Emery set up, she tells him it's not over till it's over, jerk. Later, Val sets up over at the Rosy Finger and knocks on the door. The old man opens up, stating that he hoped that she'd come back. And Val tells him that if the money isn't there, she'll kill him herself. Understood? The man says he does. His name is Augustus, and his granddaughter is Bailey. When due? And she tells him, now. Get your crap. But after getting their things and bringing Emery along, a shadowy man walks into the hub. He rings the bell, and Bellwether says that there is no more. Whoa! Man says, howdy, Miss Bellwether. If you would be so kind, I need the tags of the driver who just left with that old-timer and his little one. Bellwether says that she isn't sure who that is, and they don't give out the tags of their drivers here. The man smiles. My call sign is Blacktop Bill, and I'm sure that you can make an exception just this once. Another driver walks up, turning Bill around, stating, look, you got a problem with Val? Then you got a problem with all of us. That little black suit might impress. Bill tells him, actually, it's a matrix of carbon nanotubes and I'm not wearing it, I'm bonded with it. It's a pretty painful process. If you haven't built up a tolerance to the stuff, it'll burn through you like hot air. He grabs the driver's face and suddenly the skin on his face begins to melt. And as the driver falls to the ground screaming in agony, Bill looks at everyone stating, those wondering, I don't have a problem with your friend Val. I have a problem with the old man in her truck. Another driver asks, what did he do? And Bill says, no, not him. All of them. You see, he's the man who killed the sun, and we're all going to hunt him down. And that concludes our independent book of today. Nocterra, issue number 2 is already out, and I will link it down below. But now let's get back to our first 2 stories. Joker is going in a very interesting direction. I'm not gonna lie, when they first announced they were doing a Joker book, I kind of laughed. I was like, wow, can you cash grab more? And while this may still seem like a cash grab of a book, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because it's good, and being good is all that matters. And as for the Batman the Detective book by Tom Taylor, this is kind of what I've always wanted in a Batman book, a nice detective detective storyline where he has to go outside of Gotham and we get to see more of his, I don't know, the way he's affected the world itself. You know what I mean? I really am enjoying that book as well, and I wanted to bring it to you, which is why we broke up our DC books into 2 compilations today. But of course, that left me room for another independent this week, Nocterra by Scott Snyder, but I already spoke about that one also. So let me know in the comments down below which of these 3 stories you want us to keep covering, because if there's a book in here where you're like, Benny, I really don't want you to cover the Joker story anymore, or the Punchline story, hey, if enough people say that, we'll just stop covering it in these compilations and find a different story to cover. Either way, guys, thank you so much for watching these long videos. I hope you're enjoying these compilations to allow you to keep up with current day comics on a much larger scale than I would hope other channels are covering, because we're covering so many books now. You are going to be aware of what's happening in all these universes. Don't forget, if you really do enjoy this and you want to further support us and have a vote on the big videos of one storyline that we still do every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday, then make sure you go on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian, where you can pop that vote in there and figure out what's coming out next on the channels. I'll see you next time.